Shabbat Shalom. We're going to invite you to take your seats. We hope you grabbed a prayer book. And if not, you can follow along. Ooh. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return to where you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome and Shana Tova. We are here at Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat of return in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, at the middle of our days of awe. I think our unique opportunity during our year to reflect on who we are, who we want to be, kind of embodying that Shabbat of return. And tonight we are also, of course, commemorating the 20th anniversary of September 11th, remembering such a defining and painful moment in our country and the way it impacted each of our lives in the various different ways that it did. So on this Shabbat Shuvah and Shabbat of return, we not only return to our truest selves, we return to prayer, we're also returning to memory, and of course, as we do every week, returning to Shabbat.
As we turn to Kabbalat Shabbat this week, we are diverting from the liturgy that is in our prayer book and turning to songs that have a liturgical feel to them, but are part of the fabric of our American landscape. So we are going to sing some pieces of music, which I am sure that you will know. So please do join us, sing with us, allow this music to open your hearts and your souls as we return. This land is your land.
This land is
Your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me.
I've roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of the diamond deserts, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me.
This land
Was made for you and me.
Page 377, America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Turning back in our prayer books to page 20, we continue welcoming Shabbat into our midst with the words of Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi, likrat kala penei Shabbat, nekavla, nekavla. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala penei Shabbat, nekavla, nekavla. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi, likrat kala penei Shabbat, nekavla, nekavla. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala penei Shabbat, nekavla, nekavla. Boi v'shalom ateret lecha dodi, likrat kala, pene Shabbat, nekabla, lecha dodi, likrat kala, pene Shabbat, nekabla. And we're going to continue welcoming in Shabbat with the lighting of our Shabbat candles. So I'd like to invite up the Barclay parents and the Christie parents to kindle the Sabbath light.
As we light these Shabbat candles, we link ourselves with the generations of our people who have kindled these holy flames. Time passes quickly, and we take this moment to pause and express our gratitude. We stand here as a family with humility and love for this occasion, for one another, and for being a part of this sacred community. As we participate in this age-old ritual, we embrace this moment as we move forward in the cycle of our lives.
Yesterday we held our son in our arms, and soon he will be called to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. These Shabbat candles remind us not only of the joy of this occasion, but they help us to see the light within one another and the strengths that each of us possesses. Grateful for all the precious gifts in our lives, we kindle the Sabbath light.
We practice this for hours at home and we're fumbling right now. No applause. We finally got to him.
Wait.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'chad shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlikner shel Shabbat. Amen. Okay. And we'll continue with our call to prayer at Baruch Hu on page 146, and I'll invite you to please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed, Le'olam Va'ed. Yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da-da, yada
We'll continue on page 147. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim b'hokma poteach she'arim u'bitvuna meshane itim u'mahalif et hazmanim u'misader et hakohavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei hoshech v'hoshech mipnei or.
Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzivahot shimo el chai, bekayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravi.
Amen. Continue on 148. In each age we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment we are addressed by the world.
In each age we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment we stand face to face with truth.
In each age we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment the knowing heart is filled with wonder.
In each age the
Children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth.
Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'nibartam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam lehot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mizuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem gedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet.
We'll continue responsively on 151. We worship the power that unites the universe, the promise of harmony for all.
Yet the oneness that eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. There's evil enough to break the heart,
and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
Grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
kamocha, Ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha, Nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot, Osef melech. Mi chamocha, Ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha, Nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot, Osef melech. Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Adonai. Malchutecha ra'u banecha boke ayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam ze Elianu anu ve'ameru Adonai imloch le'olam ba'ed. Who is like you? Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Adonai.
Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours.
Baruch atah Adonai, ha'porei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
On this evening of memory, in this season of return, in this very complicated time, we take a moment to pray for healing, the bodies of the people we love and the hearts and souls of our world. This Shabbat, we send our thoughts and prayers to the following members of our own Bnai Jeshurun community: to Menachem ben Aharon and Stanley Amsterdam, Cindy Baker, Todd Foreman, Paige Foreman, and Andrew Foreman, to Alan Tilley, Manfred Kahan, and Brooke Heron, to Ivy Kirschenbaum, Rose Rothman, David Rothman, to Tammy Schwartzberg and Braden Silver, and Eliana Leora, Bat Shoshana Leah. To those names, we add others that you may be holding in your heart, someone you may want to pray for. If you're so inclined, you can let me know that you'd like to share a name, and if you are so inclined, your relationship with that person. Prayers for healing. Patty? Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Bill? Thank you. Barbara? Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Dina? Thank you. Yes. Maureen? Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you. Thank you. One more. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, Adonai, our God. We call you the healer of the sick. And we sing the words of Misha Berach, heal us now.
Rifa'enu Adonai v'nei rafeh, Hoshienu v'nivashea, El karov lechol korav, ach karov l're'av yish'or. We pray for healing of the body. We pray for healing of the soul, for strength of flesh and mind and spirit. We pray to once again be whole. We pray for healing of our people. We pray for healing of the land and peace for every race and nation, every child, every woman, every man.
We turn ahead in our prayer books, page 155, for the blessings of the Amidah. I'll invite you to just pay attention because we are in the Shabbat between the High Holy Days, that we will be switching between the Shabbat melody and the High Holy Day melody. And so you'll see some of the words, but pay attention and we will lead you through it. Page 155, please rise for the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avot
Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Mekoneh Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geulah Livnei B'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava. Zochreinu lechaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chotfeinu b'sefer hachayim, le'ma'anecha Elohim chayim. Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayeh Hakol, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umidom Elach, Melech Memit Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua. Michamocha Avarachamim, Zocher Yitzurov, Lechaim Berachamim. V'ne'emanata l'chayot hakol, Baruch Atah Adonai, l'chayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch Atah Adonai, HaMelech HaKadosh.
For those who went out into danger, and for those who remained behind with the infirmed and injured, we give thanks. For those who thought of others first, for those who offered comfort to others, we give thanks. For moments of unknown, in times of fear, grant us courage. When called upon to stand for the rights of others, when others call for our destruction, grant us courage. When the enemies of freedom lash out, when the darkness of hatred descends, bless us with your peace. When we feel the urge to trample and destroy, when we look to the future of your universe and our world, dear God, please bless us with your peace. Shalom Rav, page 164.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Yatahu Melech Adon Lecho לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לכל השלום, שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם, וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה ישלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם.
This 20th commemoration of September 11th falls during the Asara Yamei Tshuva, the 10 days of awe, which take us from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. Rabbi Laura Geller wrote that during this time of year, our work is of cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting of the soul as individuals in a community. Where have we been? Where are we now? And what is the vision of the future we long to create? On Rosh Hashanah and again on Yom Kippur, we will hear the sound of the shofar, the ram's horn. May this sound remind us of those whose lives were lost and bring comfort to those who love them. May the sound challenge us to ask what we have done over these years to bring healing to our world. And most importantly, may that sound empower us to work together for peace. Taking a few moments on this evening for quiet, solitude, meditation, and prayer, we take a few moments to pray in silence.
עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And Shana Tova, happy and healthy and sweet year to everyone here, everyone who is joining us from home. As you heard Rabbi Perlman allude to before, this is called Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat of return. It is the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It is considered one of the two most important Shabbatot, Sabbaths throughout the year. In fact, as I like to remind you each and every year, on this Sabbath in the days of old, you would sit back and use a nice big pillow because rabbis would speak for, and I do not kid, 3 hours would be their sermon time. The trade-off is they didn't speak any other time during the year besides the Sabbath and the one before Passover. So to ensure each and every year that you don't get us up here, give us 3 hours and we'll take it right up, as you might imagine, we asked members of the congregation to come and to teach their stories, to be able to talk about how it is that life has impacted them, specifically how the sacred sense of holiness, especially during this time of year, has affected them, and a compelling story that has helped write the narrative of their respective lives. This year, as you know, you can't help but to know, we are commemorating the 20th anniversary of the horrific events of September 11th, 2001. And I'm not going to say much more about Jill Goldstein because she's going to tell you her story, and I don't want to take it away because she tells it, because I've read it incredibly beautifully. But I'll say that Jill and her husband Eric have been part of this congregation from before I got here. In fact, out of the 30 coffees that were hosted for me that summer, you guys were one of them that made me feel at home as soon as I got here to Short Hills. So again, without further ado, I'm going to let Jill tell her story. It is our profound privilege to invite up Jill Goldstein on this Shabbat Shuvah evening.
I promise I won't take 3 hours. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much for coming and for allowing me to share my story with you. I always believed in fate. I was convinced my destiny was predetermined and my life would follow along the path that God chose for me. I trusted that things would always turn out just as they were meant to be. This theory has been tested many times in my life, but none more drastically than on September 11th, 2001. Let me back up for a bit and fill in some blanks for you. I married the first love of my life, Stephen Goldstein, in 1996, just a few blocks away from here at the Crystal Plaza. My maiden name was Moskowitz, and as far as Jewish last names go, it was definitely a lateral move. Steve and I met on a blind date, which happened to be on Yom Kippur. I was a very cheap date. No eating or drinking, just walking around Central Park, passing the time until we could join our respective families to break the fast. Our connection was instant, and we soon learned of several coincidences that led us to cross paths many times earlier in our lives. We interpreted these coincidences as fate. We believed we were meant to be together. We were each other's beshert. When Steve proposed to me, he gave me a very well-worn, marked-up copy of Plato's Symposium. He explained the philosophy to me, dummied down, of course. I'm smart, but not like philosophy reading smart. He said, when our souls are created, we are split into two halves, a male and a female. The goal in life is to search for and find your other half. This is where the term soulmate comes from. Inside the front cover of the book, Steve wrote, I always knew I'd find you. We set up house in Princeton, New Jersey, and it wasn't long before our first angel, Hannah, arrived. Seeing Steve as a dad was such a joy. He was so in love with her and loved the fact that she looked just like him. People actually called her Steve in a dress. 3 years later, our second angel, Harris, arrived, and our family was complete. What made Steve's bond with Hannah and Harris so special was that he worked from home and got to spend more time with them than most dads did. Steve did some confusing financial thing regarding weather derivatives and developed his own online trading system in our basement. Not long after, he sold it to Cantor Fitzgerald. His first day of work there was August 20th, 2001. 3 weeks later, Steve went to work and never came home. Hannah was 3 at the time, and it was just 11 days before Harris's first birthday. That day also happened to be Hannah's first day of preschool, to be followed by her first ever ballet lesson. Steve painted her tiny little toenails pink the night before to match her leotard and tights. I'll spare you the heartbreaking details of the day itself, but my first question, of course, was, where was God? And how could he let this happen? Was it even conceivable that 3,000 people were fated to die that day? All in the same place? At the same time? Not possible. If there even was a God, which I doubted at the time, he failed in the hugest way possible. I was angry, and I felt utterly betrayed by God. Everything I ever believed in was gone. What was I supposed to do now? I thought my life was over, and to be honest, I wanted it to be. But clearly that wasn't an option for me. Hannah and Harris gave me a reason to wake up every morning. I'm here today because of them. The days that followed were a complete blur. I was basically a robot. I managed to get the kids up, dressed, fed, bath, bed, and whatever came in between. I often went to sleep when they did, just because I couldn't wait for the days to be over. I joined a 9/11 support group, which was the only place I truly felt comfortable. The fellow grievers were from my planet. Everyone else was an alien. Many months went by before I started to occasionally join my girlfriends for lunch and possibly a movie. Even more months went by, and I slowly crawled out of my shell. I could finally take a deep breath without it catching in my throat. I could smile, I could laugh, I could function. I had to take over all of the husband stuff, sorry to any feminists out here, paying bills, shoveling snow, buying a car, changing light bulbs, and even killing spiders. I was now the CEO of the family, promoted from administrative assistant. But I did it. Strength I never knew I had appeared and suddenly took over. Along with taking charge comes a sense of empowerment, and boy, was I empowered. This spilled over to other areas of my life. I began writing again, a hobby I had long abandoned, and even got a few things published. Underlying everything was the fact that I knew I had to make things okay for Hannah and Harris. I was now mom and dad, and it was exhausting, but somehow I was able to make everything work. I was gradually becoming a better version of myself, the person I feel I was meant to be. Steve would be so proud. I knew at this point that we were going to be okay. Okay, now let's get to the fun stuff, dating. To be completely honest, I dreaded the whole idea and couldn't even imagine being with anyone else but Steve. But there was also a part of me that admittedly knew I didn't want to be alone. I loved being married and couldn't imagine life without that kind of connection with someone. It was really important to me that Hannah and Harris grow up in a house filled with that forever kind of love and stability. I can't say there was a specific time when I felt ready, but let's just say the thought of dating and meeting someone became less and less repulsive over time. Back then, there was no JDate or Hinge or Match or any other online dating sites. People often relied on friends or friends of friends or friends of friends of friends to be set up. And that's what ultimately happened. I got a call from a dear friend in Boston who said she had someone to set me up with. She asked if she can give him my number. I was unsure and iffy, but then she said, his last name is Goldstein. You wouldn't even have to change your name. Eric Goldstein called soon after and left a message. It took a few weeks to muster the courage to call back, but once I did, our conversation lasted for hours. Of course, there was the typical small talk. What do you do? Where did you go to college? How many kids do you have? And in this case, what kind of jeans do you wear? Eric is in the denim business, for those who don't know. Luckily, I passed that test and the conversation continued. What are your kids' names? I asked. Jacob and Harris, he said. Wait, no, really. What are your kids' names? Jacob and Harris, he repeated. I almost dropped the phone. My son's name is Harris, too. The coincidence of having not only the same last name, but also sons with the same first name was too uncanny to ignore. Was God back from his temporary leave of absence? Is this fate, meant to be, or just random luck? I agreed to go on a date with Eric Goldstein the following weekend. I was still living in Princeton at the time, and Eric lived here in Short Hills. He drove down to meet me, and we met at Mediterra, a local favorite restaurant. I got there first and was waiting at the bar with sweaty palms when I saw him walk in. Eric is a pretty big guy and hard to miss, and could appear as intimidating to some. Not really. But as he hugged me hello, I was at ease immediately. Dinner lasted hours, and we were asked to leave because the restaurant was closing for the night. We walked next door to the best ice cream parlor ever, Halo Pub. I highly recommend it. Mint with Oreo cookies is the best. Now it was getting really late, and the lights in the ice cream parlor shut off. Begrudgingly, it was time to end the night. We parted ways with an innocent, sweet kiss and got into our separate cars. Less than a minute later, my cell phone rang. It was Eric. He wanted to continue our conversation. That night, I went to bed with a huge smile on my face and huge hopes in my heart. I kept our developing relationship under wraps for a while. I didn't want to hear the opinions and, frankly, judgments of whether it was too soon or happening too fast. I wanted to keep this to myself and listen to my own instincts. But one afternoon, I got a call from my friend Jackie. She, too, had the perfect guy for me. She went on to say her family vacations with his family in Aruba every year. And he's divorced, and he's the nicest guy in the world, yada, yada, yada. His name is Eric Goldstein, and he has 2 sons. One of them is named Harris, too. I immediately cut her off. Jackie, I said, I'm already in love with Eric Goldstein. The cat was officially out of the bag. When I hung up with her, that word fate popped up in my head again. Do I dare believe? Do I get a second chance from God? Does God get a second chance from me? What can I say about Eric? So much. There really are no words in the English language that are good enough to describe what an incredible person Eric is. But if I had to pick just one word, for me, it would be home. From our first meeting, Eric always felt like home. We waited a while before introducing the kids. We first wanted to make sure this was going to be a permanent thing, and it was. A little over a year later, Eric proposed, and I said yes. We found a house in Short Hills that fit our big Brady Bunch family, and were married in the backyard, surrounded by the family and friends that watched me go through the lowest point in my life to finally witness my happily ever after. Merging our families wasn't easy, I'm not going to lie. It took a long time, and there were definitely some stressful and discouraging moments. The kids were still so young, and there were so many conflicting emotions for us all. But Eric and I persisted. We had a clear vision of the end game, a cohesive family unit. And we did everything we could to foster that. Vacations, holidays, dinners, and lots of conversations. And it worked. We've now been married for over 17 years, and I can confidently say that the 4 kids have just as strong a bond, if not stronger, with each other than any biological siblings. I cherish Jacob and Harris. They are technically my stepchildren, but in my reality, they are just as much my children as Hannah and Harris. Countless people told me that Steve handpicked and delivered Eric to me, which seems like a very sweet idea and definitely something that he would do. But was it really fate? Was this chapter of my life predetermined? And if I did believe that, and it's a big if, wouldn't that mean Steve died so I could meet Eric? Just swap them? Are people just disposable like that? I still struggle and live with this concept on a daily basis, and that's not easy. But how else do you explain the events of my life? There has to be a higher power. Something or someone got me from September 11th to now. I absolutely couldn't have and didn't do it alone, and I really believe that wholeheartedly. I felt like I needed to recognize and honor and formally thank this higher power. So in 2009, I stood on this very beam, well, not this one, the one in there, and became a bat mitzvah. Who was I thanking? I'm honestly not sure. God? Fate? Steve? Tom? Dick? Harry? I still don't know. Do I believe Steve was my destiny? Yes. Do I believe that Eric is my destiny? Yes. There has to be a higher power. There has to be a plan. Whatever or whomever it is, it turns out that I was right all along. Things really do end up just as they are meant to be. I learned many lessons over the last 20 years, but one stands out the most, and it's something I say to my children during challenging times in their lives. The worst thing that could possibly happen, and it was, happened. And we're fine. Better than fine. If we could get through that, we could get through anything. I truly believe that, and I hope they do as well. The dress I'm wearing has only been worn twice before. The first time was at Steve's funeral, and the second was when I read Steve's name at the 10th anniversary ceremony at Ground Zero. I will wear it once again tomorrow morning when I read his name at the 20th anniversary ceremony at Ground Zero. My relationship with Steve did not die when he did. His grave marker says, "Love lives on," and it does. It lives on through Hannah and Harris, who, in addition to looking exactly like him, inherited everything that was good about Steve. May he rest in peace, knowing we are in very, very good hands. Shana Tova, everybody. May this be the best year yet for us all.
A couple of things. This is 10 days of our life every year where we're supposed to reach down for the ultimate flowing of tears of profound sadness and tears of profound joy. And how in 10 minutes, Jill, you were able to bring both of those to us with such authenticity and bravery and courage and wherewithal is something that I think we all aspire to. When I got here 15 years ago, you didn't remember this, but I did. After my first Friday night, before I left, Rick Manis, whose memory should be for a blessing, who was our security guard, said, "There's a letter here for you." And it was like a 3 or 4 page handwritten letter from you, and said, "If you're going to be my rabbi, I want you to know my story." It was only 5 years into it. It's a story that I have followed and I have been touched by, and I think all of us have learned from this evening. So thank you. Thank you for having the courage to get up here and tell that story. And in terms of you, Eric, you just show up at all these bizarre places. This morning, I was on what I call a holy day walk, where I am trying to save you from too many minutes of a sermon and figuring out where to edit. And a very old friend of mine called me from Colombia, South America, a college friend, and I was telling them your story. And I look up, and there's Eric Goldstein on the corner of Wyoming and something with his arms like this, ready to give me a hug, and said, there you were driving up the road. And I said, you have no idea. And to the four of you, three of you were here to watch you grow up and remember you so well from when you were little chickens, as I call my own children. And to see you grow up into such beautiful human beings is extraordinary. And I say four, one of them is on a stream, because if you think this family hasn't done enough in the world, Harris, Big Harris, we used to call him Big and Little, right, when they were younger, so decided last year that he wanted to go serve in the Israel Defense Forces, and is a lone soldier in Israel, defending right now, if I remember correctly, up north on the Lebanese border, and was just in my office to visit with me and Rabbi Karen to tell us about what he's doing. So from the two of you and Steve up above, there's a lot being instilled in these children in the ways that we should all be raising our children. So thank you for such important lessons. Thank you for being you. And we will be connected from heart to heart and soul to soul for many, many years to come. May Steve's name be for a blessing. For the prayer of redemption, which is the prayer that helps lift us up from such stories, we ask you to return to your prayer books to the middle of page 282, and please rise as the ark is opened. Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
And so indeed on this Shabbat, we remember those two twin towers, that glorious blue sky, the crisp morning air, the loved ones lost, families bereaved, the terror on the faces of our friends and family, the moaning of the sirens heading downtown, where we were when we heard the news. We remember and we will never forget the gaping hole in our skyline, the gaping hole in our community, the gaping hole in our hearts. We remember the towers of smoke seen from miles away, the acrid stench that filled our city, the calls from family and friends worried about us, the stories of survivors, the lives of those we lost. We were in shock. Then we were in mourning. We cried when we saw a ribbon on a light pole. We cried when we knew our children were safe. We cried when we knew that we lost friends and our family. We cried for our lost innocence. We cried for our police and firefighters. We remember the kindness of strangers who opened their hearts and held out their hands. So many stepped up. the memorial services, the candlelit vigils, the phone calls and hugs. We remember and please God on this Shabbat, may we never, ever forget our determination to carry on, our determination to rebuild, our promises to reach out and care, our promises to build a just and safe society. So on Shabbat, each of our families lit 2 candles, one for remembering Shabbat and one for observing Shabbat. Tonight we now also light 4 candles. This one for building 1. This one for building 2. This one for the Pentagon. And this one for Flight 93. This one for the hundreds of firefighters. This one for the hundreds of police. This one for all the men. This one for all the women. This one for all the girls. And this one for all the boys. And these candles for the husband and wife who leapt out of the tower holding hands. This one for our luck running out. This one for the New York skyline. This one for the walking wounded. This one for the critically wounded. This one for the survivors. This one for the dead. This candle for building 1. This candle for building 2. As we remember that fateful day that changed everything, we say, Zichronam livracha. May their memories truly be for a blessing for each and every one of us. Let us listen to the music of memory and then take some time of silence to honor their memories. And then take it with us by living each and every moment of our lives as though it were the last.
Of the sun, we remember. In the blowing of the wind, we remember. In the opening of buds, we remember. We remember. In the blueness of the sky, we remember. In the rustling of the leaves, we remember. As the year starts and it ends, we remember. We remember. When we're weary and need strength, we remember. When we're lost and sick at heart, we remember. When we've joys we yearn to share, we remember. We remember. So long as we live, they too shall we remember. We remember.
To their memories, we are those who have been lost from our congregational community in this season and in years past. As is our tradition in our community, if you hear the name of one that you may have lost, please feel free to stand to honor their memory, only if you feel so inclined. During this period of Shiva, we remember Harry Olstein, husband of Natalie, father of Carolyn and Yvette, grandfather of Brooke, Isabel, Sam, Sulia, and Lily. We remember Myron Goldman, husband of Carol, father of Bob, of Billy, of Pam, grandfather of Ben, Cynthia, Sam, Kira, Jake, and Florence, brother-in-law of Lawrence. We are saddened to announce the death of Susan Rothman, wife of David, sister-in-law of Susan, grandmother of 5, and of Ted Wolf, father of Angelique Levi. And during this period of Shloshim, the traditional Jewish 30-day period of mourning, we remember Leslie Weinberg, Irene Rosenzweig Wanderer, Sandy Grata, Jonathan Satz, Major Goldfinger, George Miswin Bryant, Jerry Marcus, Melvin I. Heyman, and Ellie Brief. And on this, their Yortzeit, the yearly anniversary of death, we remember Sidonia Carpel Salkin, Jeffrey Gardner, Steve Goldstein, William Adler, Leon Arazi, Emma Bachman, Louis Brenner, Mac Cheplov, MD, Dorothy Chopin, Leonora Wallach Davis, Julius Epstein, Betty Fisher, Samuel J. Flowers, Charlotte Joel Friedman, Samuel I. Glaubinger, Anna Miller Goldstein, Rosebell Green, Shirley H. Gross, Theodora Grata, Armin Gruber, Alice S. Hannock, Otto Heinemann, John Heller, Lillian Benkel Hyman, David L. Kahn, Barbara Cheryl Kaplan, Gabriel Kreisman, Jack Lipsy, Jacob Lowe, Dr. Alfred M. Mamlet, Louis Mandel, Milton Meyer, Deborah Elaine Mayer, Selleck J. Mindis, Dr. Alan Michelle, Rose Michelle, Israel Michelle, Jack Mitnick, Arabella C. Morris, Samuel L. Paris, Herbert Parvin, Annie Perlmutter, Morris Pomerantz, Seymour Ring, Sheila Rosen, Elisa A. Rosenthal, Frank Rosenthal, Margaret Peggy S. Rothschild, Robert Schoenwalter, Oscar Schwartz, Leo H. Schwed, Rose Scheitelman, Rose B. Schiffman, Marion Silver, Mildred Levy Silverman, Lena Silverstein, Jacqueline Slater, Lillian R. Spector, Jack Stern, Josephine Strasberg, David Strauss, Lillian Tasher, Rose Weinberg, and Irvin Yalverberg. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of the righteous be a blessing to each and every one of us praying here in the Shabbat. And let's honor their memories by inviting their souls in to dwell among us as we rise as one community to say the words of Kaddish. They're found on page 294. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash Shamei Rabbah Biolma divrach yirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon v'yomechon, u'b'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kari v'yamru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach le'ulam ululmei al maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudusha barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran biolma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, uyasei shalom, aleinu v'al v'yimru amen. May the source of peace send peace to those who mourn here, and comfort to those who are bereaved everywhere. As together as one community, we say amen. Friends, we want to remind you to take your orders of worship with you, or you can find them online. I'm not going to spend time going through them because of the hour, but just please note all the different times for Yom Kippur services beginning on Wednesday evening, called Nidre, at 7:30 p.m., both here in person, and those who want to stream, of course, can. Our annual service of remembrance at our cemetery between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is Sunday, the 12th at 10:30 a.m. Cantor Fishbein and I will be there in person and also available for stream. You can find everything else, including really important opportunities to help our world, especially during the season, in the backs of your order of worship. Jack and Noah and Quinn, you've been waiting very patiently for a service that I'm sure you will always remember, attached to a very important time of your lives. And so we invite you up to celebrate by chanting Kiddush and Motzi for our congregation. Please join us up here.
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon, inchilanu. Zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziyat Mitzrayim. Anu bacharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol Shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh Shabbat. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Beautiful job, boys. You can take your challahs with you and share them with your families. Mazel tov to the Christies. Mazel tov to the Barclays. It's so incredibly wonderful to share these simchas with you, and looking forward to sharing the actual B'nai Mitzvah. Okay, Cantor Fishbein, take us home with some patriotism tonight. We need it.
We'll conclude the way we began with a reminder of community, of pride for our country and for each other. This land is your land.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me.
L'chaim, everyone, to life. Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova.